Hey everyone, I want to spend a few minutes unpacking what does it mean to be an inspired writer. I have a definition here that I'm going to go from, probably change it over the years, but or as time comes. But here it is: the inspired writer co-labors with Holy Spirit to create stories that not only entertain but also bring transformation. The inspired writer co-labors with the Holy Spirit to create stories that not only entertain but also bring transformation. I want to unpack what that means. I've spent some time really thinking about this, and it makes sense to me. I'm going to put it out there, see if it makes sense to you. But before I do that, I want to start with the story. So, once upon a time, there was this boy who had found the love of his life. And in his tribe, the bride price for getting married was a nice big fat pig. He didn't have a pig though, so he went to his grandfather, and he said, "Grandfather, can I have a pig so that I may go and pay the price so that I could have this girl that is the woman of my dreams, the love of my life?" And the grandfather said, "You're not ready for that. I'm not going to give you a pig, but what I will give you is a piglet. Now, take this piglet up to the top of the mountain where the best grass is, and feed that pig every day up at the top of the mountain." So reluctantly, the boy agreed to follow the wisdom of his grandfather, and he took the pig, carried it up the mountain. Now he was still quite a boy, so even as a piglet, the journey was some work. It was kind of arduous. But every day he did that. He fed the pig up at the mountain, and he had time up at the mountaintop on his own while the pig ate, and then he'd bring the pig back down. He did that day after day, and the pig began to grow. And each time, the more the pig grew, the more work it became for him to carry that pig up the mountain. And as it grew from a piglet into a full-grown pig, the boy had also become a man. So at one day, the pig was full-grown, the boy was now a man, and he was able to pay the price to gain the prize. He was able to get the love of his life. I heard that story from Ted Dekker, and it really clicked with me, because that's me. That's why I'm on this journey to be an inspired writer. That's why I'm saying this to you now and have a show. And depending on where you're at, you may be watching this on YouTube, you may be listening to it in a podcast, you may be reading this as a blog. But this is my journey. So when I was 5, I was inspired. I remember this distinctly. I remembered from an early age, 5 years old even, being inspired by story, being inspired by the power of what can happen in a story. I have been marked for life by the power of a good story, and I've been transformed through my experience of that. I think I'll save the story of that for another time. There'll be another episode of the show that we'll talk about that more. But the reason why I remember being 5 is I asked for a typewriter as a 5-year-old. What kid asked for a typewriter for a present? But that was me. But I wasn't ready yet, even though I was marked by the power of the story and the drama, and I didn't even realize what it was that was speaking to me. What was speaking to me was the very heart of God, because God really is in the power of story. But at 5, I couldn't steward well that gift and even that calling. I still had more growing to do. I still needed to take what was only in my mind, a little piglet, and I needed to carry it up the mountain every day. And I've been doing that. I just now have realized this, which is why this is a journey that I'm going on. So let me unpack where that definition of what an inspired writer is. So an inspired writer co-labors with the Holy Spirit. So labor, it takes work. It takes sincerity, intentionality. So for me, it's required me to overcome pain, the work of overcoming the pain, to sitting still, like in the story, in the Narnia stories, where Eustace becomes a dragon and he has to submit to the power of Aslan's claws to rip the dragon flesh off of his body so that he can return back to who he's supposed to be, but a better version of himself. Eustace didn't get a clear picture of himself until after he became a dragon, and then he sat still and let Aslan undo that. So I've had to co-labor with the Holy Spirit to overcome wounds of rejection, to overcome wounds from divorce and all kinds of things. And I'm sure as we go forward, I'll probably unpack that a little bit more. But what I've come to realize is really what I was wrestling with was my own self-worth. So I've been on this journey of understanding my identity. And though I'll never have fully arrived, but I have a much better understanding and clearer picture of who I am. I am a son of the Most High King, of King Jesus. I know that now through the pain of going up the mountain and carrying that. And I'm just now at that place where I'm ready to take up the journey of also being a writer and applying that. I've studied it over the years, but I've never sat still to actually make it happen. And that's the next part of the definition, that we're co-laboring with the Holy Spirit to not only entertain, but also to bring transformation. So a good story has got to entertain. So this isn't about ignoring the hard work. There is skill that's involved, but I believe it's a skill that can be learned. And over the years, as I've studied other people who've gone before me, I've studied the ways that they've done that. I've tried to learn the best I can on how to tell a good story and what are the key pieces that make this work. I'm on my third book now, as I am trying to apply it and see it work and taking a step back and trying again. So it's got to be entertaining, but it's a skill that can be learned. But the key thing, the thing that sets this apart, and why I feel like it's worth it to do this, to be talking right now with you all, is that it's transformational. That an inspired writer is truly doing something that's transformational, because story is woven into our very DNA. It comes from the very heart of God. In every culture across the planet, story is so important to who we are. And we can be transformed by stories. I know many of you watching this have been transformed by a powerful story. Some of you watching this, it was a key story that you heard during a message that caused you to get up out of your seat and go forward when they said, come forward, you want to give your life to Jesus. Some of you, it was a key story that changed the way you saw yourself or gave you hope or perspective. You watch that movie, and every time at that one scene, it makes you cry, even though you know it's coming. It's still there because the story touches us at the heart level. It connects with who we were made to be. So story is transformational, and I sincerely believe that we're connecting with the very heart of God. And if story is connecting with the heart of God, if we're releasing that into the world and we're trying to co-labor with Him to create together alongside the Holy Spirit, then the same things that are true about who God is will be revealed through our stories. And key to that is His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So being an inspirational writer, being an inspired writer, is someone who expects the testimonies of transformation, first in ourselves, but then in the others that read our stories or connect with our stories, whatever that is. I've heard them before, and people who have been transformed, been healed by looking at a painting. Acts of creativity bring transformation in people's lives. Jesus spoke in parables for a reason. They stick with us. They stick in the culture. Regardless of where you go to church or what you were taught growing up, stories are powerful. They move us to do things. They move us and connect us at the heart. And just like at the very beginning, going all the way back to creation, God created and He brought order out of chaos. That's the transformational aspect of being an inspired writer. So why? Let me unpack just a little bit more. Why this? Why am I going through the process of trying to put this all down and record it? That line in, I believe it's Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty sure it might be The Hobbit, where Bilbo says to Frodo, mind your feet, because you never know where they're going to take you once you step out the door. So that's where I'm at. This is the start of an intentional journey for me of wanting to document what's going on. So this is one part video blog. This is my vlog on my journey into becoming an inspired writer and living up to that definition. So there's a level of accountability in this, but really, I'm putting this out there because I really want to serve. I want to serve other people that this message clicks with, and I want, if I can flatten your learning curve in any way, then that's what I want to do. I have spent years and resources learning what are the key components of a good story, because I wanted to look under the hood. And when I go to the movies, I'm pondering, why was the plot set up that way? Why didn't they have them do this, or why didn't they have them do that? Then I'll read articles and I'll study what other people have said. My path did not take me to get an MFA. My path did not take me to go to film school, not yet anyway. Who knows? Maybe someday it will. But I want to take what I've given, what I've learned and what I've picked up, and I want to talk through it with you, because one of the best ways to learn is to try and teach it to others. So for example, like there's 3 keys that I'm working on right now in what it means to be an inspired writer. One of the keys is that you have to have a healed heart. And I talked about that a minute ago, that you have to be whole in your identity and understanding and see yourself the way God sees you if you're going to be an inspired writer. You have to have a kingdom revelation, that you have to have a picture and a belief and an aspiration that His will really can be on earth as it is in heaven, and that it can even come through something as simple as a story. But then one of the third key that I really believe is true is that you got to be tenacious, that you just have to have this desire, this unction, this belief in you that you just are not going to stop. So those are 3 keys that I'm learning now, and I'm going to unpack more as we go forward on this journey together. I want to resource you in how did I come upon this, or how have I decided upon this. So as you're interacting with me on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, you can, I want to show you, well, this is where I saw this. This is where I found that. Like I said, I want to be a curator. I want to shorten your learning curve in this journey as well. But in order for these things to be true, in order for this definition, in order to live up to the definition, then it's going to require love. So that's the other reason why I'm doing this, is I want to love well. I want to gather a tribe. I want to gather a community. I feel like one part of what I'm doing is sounding a trumpet and raising a signal and saying, come over here, let's do this together. So I want to love well. So I want to come alongside you, and I want to hear your struggles up the mountain, and I want to encourage you and say, no, you can do this, or this is how it's going to be, because I believe where we're going. See, the word inspire, the definition of inspire, the root of that is revelation. I really feel like, and I know that we are touching and tapping into the very heart of God when we set out on this journey. So coming together as a tribe with that common belief that we're touching in the heart of God, and we're going to bring revelation. One day, as a result of being in this group or coming on this journey together, being a part of that tribe, we're gonna have watch parties for the things that are being released out there. There's never been a greater time. The world is clamoring for stories. The people who have the platforms are clamoring for stories. And so, being specific here, I'm talking to you, Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, Hulu. MailChimp is telling stories. I mean, they're everywhere. Apple, Disney, they're all clamoring to get more stories out there. So the field, the harvest is ripe, I guess would be the way to say that. We're going to be at each other's watch parties. We're going to go to each other's book signings, and we're going to share the testimonies of the ways that God has brought freedom and has brought healing and has touched people's lives because we said yes to this journey of being an inspired writer. So that's why I'm doing this, and I'm throwing the challenge out there. I'm calling you to join me on this journey and in this process. So connect with me on this. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. Let's connect that way. Add comments down here. Let me know who you are. come find me on Facebook. J.I. Glover is my author name. I figure if it's good enough for Lewis to use initials, C.S. Lewis, then I can use some initials. But you can just call me Jake if you want to. So I'm on Facebook under J.I. Glover, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things. So come find me there. I'm going to be creating a group for us to connect with on Facebook. And then lastly, I mentioned MailChimp. There's links in here to connect on a newsletter. Let me know who you are so that we can stay in touch. So that's what it means to be an inspired writer. That's the vision that's out there. That's the plan. So let me know. Are you with me? And let's do this thing together.